Start in the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I hope you all will be fine and staying at home. This course, Semantics and Pragmatics, is for BS English students and the course code is ENGL 3126. This is instructor Rubina Naz from University of Education, DG Khan campus. Today is second session of cross-culture pragmatics. Today we know about the importance of cross-culture in pragmatic. You will be able to know not only importance of cross-culture in pragmatics, even we will also discuss about differences between intra-culture and cross-culture. So, today's topic is cross-culture pragmatics, but we know about the barrier of cross-culture communication. That what the hurdles we are facing when we are going to communicate and when we are going to face the other culture or other community or when we are talking with other people. But before going to the topic, it is necessary to get the review of the very first lecture. The very first lecture was about cross-culture pragmatics, in which you know about the basic definition of different in which we cover different topics about cross-culture pragmatics. Very first, it was the definition of semantics. I explained in that lecture that it is the branch of linguistics and logic concerned with meaning. The two main areas are logical semantics and lexical semantics. Logical semantics concerned with matters such as sense and reference and implications, but the lexical semantics concerned with the analysis of word meanings and relations between them. After that, we know about the pragmatics. In the previous lecture, it was clearly described that pragmatic is a study of the way people use language in actual in simple definition was described in the first lecture of the pragmatic. It was not only the study of the way people use language in actual conversation, even this is also the study of how words are used, or the study of signs and symbols. An example of pragmatics is how the same word can have different meaning in different settings. An example of pragmatics is the study of how people react to different symbols. After these both definitions of semantics and pragmatics, we have discussed about the culture. What is the culture? How we can define that? And whenever we have listened the word culture, what type of words come in our mind? Let me recall in your minds that the proper definition of culture was that it was a culture is a way of life of a group of people. The behaviors, beliefs, values, and symbols that are expected generally without thinking about them, and that are passed along by communication and imitation from one generation to the next generation. It was probably most simple and clear definition of the culture. We also knew in the previous lecture that what comes very first when we have listened the word culture. Definitely, the very first word which comes in our mind, it was the language. we also know about the language in detail. But we also explained the culture. After defining the culture, we also know that how many elements are most important in the culture, which were customs and traditions, religion, arts and literatures, and form of governments and economic systems. After that, we also knew the aspects of culture, in which we discuss in detail about the language. That after that, it was the norms, values, and artifacts. When we have discussed about the language, it was probably equal to the culture. Even we can also say simply that language and culture are intertwined. A particular language usually points out of a specific group of people. Language, it means that you are also interacting with the culture that speaks the language. You cannot understand one's culture without assessing its language directly. After language, we also know that how the people are using the gestures and how much language is important in cross-culture or in the culture and language. We know we also know that how much hand gestures has been used in the language, what's the value of it, and how we can define either every gesture has the same culture or not. As language is important to communicate or to express our feelings to others, same like that, gestures also necessary to convey our message. The hand gesture, actually very first we have to know that what are hand gestures. Hand gestures are a way of communicating with others and conveying your feelings. These gestures are most helpful when one is speaking to someone with no language in common. The meaning of hand gestures in different cultures may translate into different things. As in the language, we are using the words to express our feelings or convey our message. Same like that, hand gestures also express our feelings or given the specific message. But the question is that, are hand gestures the same in different cultures or in different people or in different communities? Exactly not. Different cultures have the different meaning of the same gestures. I also given a detail in the previous lesson about the hand gestures. After that, we came to know about the importance of the culture. Why is it important to understand cultural differences? I explained that many times interacting with people from different cultures help you view life from a different perspective. When you learn about different cultures, you establish new ways of thinking and approaching and solving problems. After that, we also had a question. It was that, why is cross-cultural awareness important? In which we know that when we interact in cross-cultural situations, a lack of awareness can lead to bad or poor decisions. Cultural awareness helps us reduce the chance of making bad decisions and increases the chance of us making more insightful, considered decisions. So it is very clear that not only language is important in the culture, even every point, every aspect of the language is necessary in the culture. We are also facing different challenges of cross-cultural communications, especially on our working places. In our working areas, we are facing some most prominent challenges we are facing, which were different communication styles, different attitudes toward conflicts, different approaches to completing tasks, different decision-making styles, different attitudes towards disclosures, and different approaches to knowing. So, not only these challenges we are facing, even we also know about the culture and traditions important. How much culture and tradition important for the community, for the people, are in the culture. In the culture, traditions and customs plays an important role for the civilization and characters of its citizens and society. It helps in striking the balance with Mother Nature, conservation of nature resources, and respecting each other. When we try to assess other culture, when we are going to assess the other community, which type of culture they are having, on the same time, we are also assessing to our own culture. It is also very necessary, it is also important to know about our own culture. Actually, culture is what? It teaches us about our beliefs. And by knowing our own culture, our cultures, we are better able to understand others. With a great amount of diversity, we are still able to accept and respect each other. And on the same time, we also respect not only our beliefs, even other beliefs. Many believe that culture is lost and there is no need to know where you came from. But it is also very important to know about benefit of cultural awareness. When we interact in cross-cultural situations, a lack of awareness can lead to bad or poor decisions. Cultural awareness helps us reduce the chances of making bad decisions. We also learn that how we can give respect to others, how we can get respect from others. We also knew not only about language, about culture, about hand gestures, about importance, we also knew about the barriers of the language. So today our topic is about barriers of cross-cultural communication. Before going to our topic, it is necessary to know about basic or fundamental patterns of cultural differences. According to different linguists, there are 4 fundamental patterns, which are these. Very first, communication styles. The second one, attitude towards conflicts. The third is decision-making styles. The fourth and the last is approaches to knowing. Now let's discuss in detail. Very first aspect is communication style. What is communication style and why it is important for the culture or for the communication with others? Style is ever important. So the proper definition of communication style is it that communication styles are the broad ways in which people tend to communicate with others. There are 4 major communication styles. Very first is passive, second is passive aggressive, the third is aggressive, and the last is assertive. Understanding different communication style can radically improve the quality of your relationship. We also know detail about these major 4 communication styles. On your screen you can see passive. What is passive and why it is important in the communication styles? Very first, it deals emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, or apologetic. Every person has a unique communication style, a way in which they interact and exchange information with others. But in passive style, individuals who use the passive communication style often act indifferently, yielding to others. Passive communicators usually fail to express their feelings or needs, allowing others to express themselves. Frequently, a passive communicator's lack of outward communication can lead to misunderstanding, anger build-up, or resentment. At the same time, these communicators can be safer to speak with when a conflict arises, because they most likely will avoid a confrontation or defer to others. Passive communicators often display a lack of eye contact, poor body postures, and an inability to say no. Passive communicators also act in a way that states people never consider their feelings. But passive communicators are also easy to get along with as they follow others. And the next is passive aggressive. Passive aggressive communication style. Users appear passive on the surface, but within he or she may feel powerless or stuck, building up a resentment that leads to seething or acting out in indirect or secret ways. Most passive-aggressive communicators will utter to themselves rather than confront a person or issue. They have difficulty acknowledging their anger, use facial expressions that don't correlate with how they feel, and even deny there is a problem. Passive-aggressive communicators are most likely to communicate with body language or a lack of open communication to another person, such as giving someone the silent treatment, spreading rumors behind people's back. Passive-aggressive communicators may also appear cooperative, but may silently be doing the opposite. Ultimately, passive-aggressive communicators are aware of their needs, but at times struggle to voice them. We can also see which emotions or which type of emotions they are having. Very first, there is given on your screen that is emotionally dishonest, indirect, self-denying at first, or self-enhancing at expense of other later. The next is aggressive. Which type of aggressive communication style? It's often apparent when someone communicates in an aggressive manner. You will hear it, you will see it, you may even feel it. The aggressive communication style is emphasized by speaking in a loud and demanding voice, maintaining intense eye contact, and dominating or controlling others by blaming, criticizing, threatening, or attacking them, among other traits. Aggressive communicators often issue commands, ask questions rudely, and fail to listen to others. But they can also be considered leaders and command respect from those around them. They are having very strong abilities. Inappropriately are honest, direct, expressive. They are attacking, blaming, controlling, or self-enhancing at expense of others. The last is assertive. Assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, and feelings while also considering the needs of others. The second major aspect is attitude towards conflict. Conflict has been defined as an expressed struggle between interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference. In order for conflict to be considered present, there must be an expressed struggle. This is more than a mere disagreement. Conflict exists with incompatible goals. If we have to observe to the next one and third one, decision-making style, then we also came to know that communication and decision-making are dynamic process essential for an organization's functions. Communication involves transmission of information among individuals and subunits. Decision-making uses information to set direction and solve problems. If we talk about decision-making style, that how does communication help in decision-making, then we also come to know that communication helps in effective decision-making by identification of the existing problem. Problem identification is the first step in the decision-making process. Within an organization, effective communication increases the degree of certainty with regard to the problem being solved. Same like that, it is also a very, very valuable and it's very important. Well, decision-making style is not only important, even we easily can define by these words that the ability to select between two or more alternatives to reach the best outcomes in the shortest time. There are some skills that has been used in decision-making styles. Very first, ethical decision-making skill. This skill is for healthcare or financial or industry and more. The second one, which skill we have has been used, That is active listening. Active listening means the next is leadership. After that, active listening, leadership skill, interpersonal skill, communication in logically or logic, problem solving, critical thinking, time management, analytical skill. These all are points are included in decision making styles. Unconsciously, these all points we are following or we are using in our daily routine, in our daily communication. Let me give you example that in decision making style we are focusing on active listening. When we are not listen actively, that we can't give reply. Now let's come on the last one, approaches to knowing. Last one aspect of the communication or the culture, which is approaches to knowing. Actually, there are three forms of communications, as I have also described in the previous lesson. When we are going to convey our message to others, then we are using gestures, we are using words, or might be we are going to convey our message in written form. So same like that, there are three forms of communications: verbal, non-verbal, and written communication. In these 3 points, we can convey our message or we can communicate with others. Generally, there are 4 approaches to the health communication. Health or healthy communication, which are informative, educating, persuasive, and prompting. But here, when we are going to talk about cross-culture or intra-culture communication, that it has been divided into 4 approaches. The 4 primary approaches to the study of intercultural communication are: very first is social science, second is interpretive, critical, and dialectical. Since its early development, intercultural communication has been an interdisciplinary field. After discussing cultural differences, it's easy to understand the barriers of the culture. Now, this is time when we are going to move to the barriers to cross-cultural communication. We also know that which things are creating great hurdle in cross-cultural communication. Actually, cultural barriers is when people of different cultures are unable to understand. Before going on the given points, first I want to tell to you that what are the 7 C's of communication. 7 C's communication, that mean to say that completeness, or which 7 C's are included in the communication. Very first is completeness. Completeness, it mean to say the message must be complete and geared to the receiver's preparation of the world. Secondly, courtesy. Courtesy, you must be curious about your message. What message you are going to give, it should be completed. The third one is correctness. Whatever the message you are conveying, it should be correct. Your words should be accurate according to your thoughts, according to your feelings. After that, we are also coming on the clarity. Clarity, it means to say the message which you are going to give to others, it should be simple and clear. Concentration, what words you are using in the communication, they must be considered with your feelings or your actual sense. Consciousness, you must be conscious that what words are going to convey your message, they should be not even clear, correct. You should be also considered those all. The end and the last one is creativity. Creativity mean to say whatever you are going to give the message, it should be the replyable. In the reply, you also get some answers. When we know about 7 C's communication, we also know clearly, we also know that how much it is important and how we can convey our message. And after that, we are also coming to the barriers. First, let me explain what is the barrier. Barrier, actually, it occurs within a company like language, cultural diversity, gender differences, status differences, and physical separation. These barriers to communication are specific items that can dissolve or prevent communications within an organization or within other people. So there are given major barriers which we are facing in the language, or which we are facing, or which we have seen in cross culture. The very first, which is body language. Body language, it can be changed. In previous lecture, in very first lecture, I also explained that different gestures has the different meaning according to their culture. So body language is also a major barrier to cross-culture communication. The second is etiquettes and manners. Etiquettes and manners, I want to give example over here that in European countries, people are using hello to greet to others. But in Asia, it is not seems good. So etiquettes and manners also is a great hurdle in cross-culture communication. The third one is establishing trust. In establishing trust, that first principle is respect. You should give respect and take respect. The key is to respect those differences and to work with them. One of the main principles of effective cross-cultural communication is that there is no judgment. You don't judge to others. You just respect others. So you will enhance, you will establish the trust in such type of situation. It is also a good idea to develop at least some knowledge of your team's background and cultures, so on some level you can establish a basic rapport. The next we are looking here, there is given a point, religious beliefs and stereotype. Religious beliefs, it's also a very important point where we feel a great hurdle, or we are creating a problem in cross-cultural communication. So there is no discuss about religious beliefs, about the points. Again, I will say, there will be a basic principle to establish the respect, to give the respect. The next we are coming on the social habits. Social habits, when we are observing the social habits, everybody has their own habits, but we are not included that those habits can be a part of a culture. No, it will be a wrong. Actually, the communication deals with the field of study, so we must be careful about the norms, about the respect of the people. So there are some tips, or there are some points that you can be careful in, or you can follow these points in communicating when you are going to communicate with others in other culture. Very first, keep your mind open. The second one, have at least some knowledge of people's cultural backgrounds. After that, practice active listening. You should be an active listener in your community. When you will show a great interest and when you will enhance your ability of active listening, people will also respect you. They will love to share their views or their thoughts openly. And next, watch your non-verbal communication. You try to observe how much gestures you are using in your communication. Either you are habitual to use the words without using gestures, or you are using just gestures without the verbs. So you just must notice in your social habits that are you verbal communicator or you are non-verbal communicator. The last and most important point, which is very remarkable in social habits, that is maintain a personal touch. When we are observing that people are habitual to use a personal touch, when they are going to talk, they must touch to the next one person, which is not appropriate, which is not looking good, which is going to against the manners and etiquettes. So these social habits are very necessary and very valuable for the communication. When you are going to communicate, you must be careful that which. After social habits, then we are coming on the next one point, cultural relativism. Culture is related to the someone else or other culture. So we should be also careful, and this is also a great hurdle in cross-culture communication. Then when culture are going to be combined or culture are having similar things, the next one is social or individual prejudice. So first, what is prejudice and why it is a great barrier of cross-cultural communication? Prejudice arises from the prejudging of someone's characteristics simply because they have been categorized as belonging to a particular group. It is usually associated with negative attitude to them. After social and individual prejudices, then we are coming on the personal and social values, which is equal to the emotional display. Now, what is emotional display? That what is considered an appropriate display of emotions can differ from culture to culture. In some countries, displaying anger, fear, or frustration in different places is. People from these cultures keep their emotions hidden and only discuss the factual aspect of the situation. In the other culture, participants in a discussion are expected to reveal their emotions. You can imagine what misunderstanding can arise if one culture or one person displays strong emotions in the situation in same place where different cultures are working, where different cultures are available. And the last and common barrier in the cross-cultural communication is that ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism, what is it? It's mean when we believe that my culture is the best culture and others are inferior. It is a tendency to judge other group according to standard and values of one's own group. It value not only act as communication barrier but can hinder one student's moral and productivity. Ethnocentrism is a assumption that the culture of one's own group is moral, right, and rational, and that other cultures are inferior. When confronted with a different culture, individuals judge it with reference to their own standards and make no attempt to understand and evaluate it from its members' perspective. Ethnocentrism also can create obstacles to communication with those who are culturally different from others, from you, or they are different from each other. It can also lead to hostility towards outside group and may blind you to seeing other perspective, other values, other ways of doing things. So it is very necessary that as you are given respect to your culture, same way you have to give respect to other cultures as well. After barriers, now we are coming to their solving points. If these are the barriers, so which things can be effect on the cross-culture communication and how we can have a good relation in the cross-culture communication. So there are also some points which can be shown or which can be explain you in very simple way that how your communication can be effective, especially in the cross-cultural communication. Very first point has been given, that is, study your own cultural first. It is very necessary that you know very well about your culture. You know each and everything about your culture, so it is easy to convey your message in more appropriate way. When you will know about your own culture, you can justify everything among other culture. The next one is learn about other cultures. When you will know very well about your culture, it is easy to learn about others. This is human nature. When we know about our own culture, about our own things in very well way, then we also become curious about others, that what the things they are dealing, are these things how they can deal. So it is also a very positive, or we have to show our positive attitude towards the other culture. The next is seek common ground. It is also a very effective point in cross-cultural communication, that in every moment you are ready to seek something from others. The next, use simple English. If we have to observe, different cultures are having different language, but it is very difficult to understand and it is not easy to learn in very short time. So English is the only source when we can convey our message to others, or we can receive their message, or we try to understand the other feelings. So this is necessary to use a simple language or simple English to convey your message and try to understand other feelings. And steady. It is not necessary that just in the language, as the English everybody can understand English very well way, then you are using simple English but in very fast way, then that communication can be a bit difficult to understand, or might be it is difficult way. So where you are using a simple English, there is also necessary that you should also use, or you must be keep it slowly and steady. After keeping it slow and steady, it's also necessary that adapt to local preferences. After local preferences, that you must be a sportive. Where you are positive, then you must be a sportive as well. If someone is not understanding your culture, then you must be sportive to get the way. The next one is avoid slangs. Don't use the slang language to show your culture. Maintain your etiquettes. When you are caring about your manners and etiquettes, then you can show a very well way. You can represent your culture in more good way. The last and most important point, which is listen properly before you speak. I hope you enjoy this session and you get a lot of knowledge about cross-culture communication. Further, if you have any query, then you can also make contact to me. You can send message in chat box and I would love to answer them. Thank you so much. Stay home. Stay safe. A lot of best wishes for you all, students.